Just after 8 o'clock, it is 8:15 now on Breakfast Television. Thanks for joining us. A man is facing 7 charges after several people were attacked in Queen Elizabeth Park in Vancouver on Sunday. Investigators say someone randomly assaulted, threatened, and tried to rob a number of people. Police closed off several streets while they made an arrest.
Police have not been able to speak to the suspect or to determine his motive, if any, or to identify him, as he was sedated by medical staff at the hospital due to his aggression.
Police say the charges include robbery, assault, bodily harm, and uttering threats. Investigators say the suspect remains in hospital for mental health reasons. A 52-year-old man from Vancouver has been charged following a stabbing death on the downtown east side on Canada Day. Louis Mullen is facing 1 count of second-degree murder. Officers were called to East Hastings Street and Hawks Avenue on the morning of July 1st after reports of a stabbing. 49-year-old Daniel Hayden was rushed to hospital with serious injuries. He died a couple of days later. Mullen was arrested the same day and remains in custody. There have been 5 homicides in Vancouver so far this year. China has issued a warning to its citizens about the dangers of traveling to Canada, adding more tension to diplomatic relations. Nigel Newlove has this story.
Exercise caution when traveling to Canada because of frequent violent actions by law enforcement. That message from the Chinese embassy. It's just the latest blow in an ongoing feud between the two countries.
I think it's rather a political statement saying we're really not happy with you right now.
The travel warning follows a Canadian decision to halt an extradition treaty with Hong Kong. That move after China enacted a controversial security law suppressing the pro-democracy movement. China did not go into detail, but Canadian law enforcement has been coming under increased scrutiny after videos emerged showing police brutality and the suspicious deaths of a handful of citizens. But this latest travel warning stands in the larger shadow of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou and 2 Canadians arrested in China accused of spying. Shortly after Canada detained Meng on an extradition treaty with the United States nearly 2 years ago, China detained Canadians Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig.
Well, I'm afraid that the Meng-Michaels issue, which is still, I think, the largest single issue, is not about to be solved. And I think as long as it is there, they will not go back to status quo ante, to the way things were.
The issue falling on the lap of Bob Rae, the same day he's appointed as Canada's new ambassador to the United Nations.
There is no justification for the treatment of these 2 Canadians at the moment in China.
Holden is worried the ongoing tensions may impact foreign students and Canadian industries that do trade with China. He doesn't see an end to the problem anytime soon.
So I think we're in a situation where for months, potentially years, there's going to be these accusations, counter-accusations, and net negativity.
In Ottawa, Nigel Newlove, City News.
Tracking COVID-19 cases across Canada now. Ontario is approaching 36,000 cases. Quebec has close to 56,000. There are more than 2,900 cases here in BC. Alberta, almost 8,400. Canada has nearly 106,000 cases of the novel coronavirus. Almost 8,700 people have died from COVID-19 in Canada, and more than 69,000 people have recovered. In Toronto, face masks are now mandatory in all indoor public spaces. The new bylaw applies to retail stores, malls, community centers, art galleries, and more. Gyms and indoor restaurants must also mandate face coverings once they reopen. Exemptions apply to schools, hospitals, and patios. There are no fines for rule breakers. The city's mayor says he's proud many residents have adapted to the new guidelines.
I really have noticed, whether it's masks, face coverings, whether it's social distancing, I think people are really getting it, and there's always a few who don't, but I was very gratified by the fact that things, I think, have been better, and I think that's a good sign of things to come in terms of people, following along with the guidelines and rules and helping to prevent the spread of the virus.
Children under 2 are exempt from wearing a mask, as well as people with certain medical conditions and employees behind a physical barrier. A Other major Canadian cities are also mandating face coverings, including Ottawa's bylaw going into effect today. Montreal plans to have the rule in place by late July. In the U.S., over 20 states have enforced mask rules, including California, New York, Texas, and Washington. 8:21 now on Breakfast Television. Dr. Bonnie Henry is known for answering some tough questions during her COVID-19 press conferences. She's held over 100 of them. But yesterday, a follow-up comment over the phone from Megan Curran, a new journalist at the West Shore Voice News on Vancouver Island, made our provincial health officer smile.
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm an 18-year-old myself, just graduated from high school, so I completely understand what you have to say. And on behalf of all youth, I really appreciate what you're doing for us. So thank you so much.
As some young people in my life told me, but the innovative and the really neat ways people have come together and celebrated that, my hat's off to young people.
Class of 2020. All right, 8:22 now. A decision to end policies blocking the sale of adjacent seats on airplanes is not sitting well with the average Canadian. Mike Yanni joins us now from Calgary with more on this. And Mike, a new poll is suggesting that most of us are not ready to fly anytime soon.
Oh, good morning, Mary. And yeah, I think the scene behind me kind of speaks for itself, right? When we see that not many Canadians want to fly right now. Typically, this should be extremely busy. This is the Air Canada check-in here at the Calgary International Airport, and it's pretty quiet. There are a few people checking in. Actually, I just spoke to the airport's officials, and they told me that traffic, although they don't have the numbers for June, they're down about 90% here, and I'm sure Vancouver is no different. But this new poll from Leger Marketing, I don't know if we should be surprised by some of these numbers, because it is showing that most Canadians still don't feel very comfortable when it comes to flying. In fact, when asked about these new social distancing measures, about removing that actually putting that middle seat back in and just forcing people to wear masks, 22% of Canadians say they feel comfortable with it. But the vast majority, 72% of Canadians, say they feel very uncomfortable when it comes to flying, especially with these new social distancing measures. And 6% say they don't really know how to feel. Interesting, Mary, though, to note, south of the border, apparently more Americans feel comfortable flying right now. They say 29% that were polled say they feel comfortable, even if that middle seat is open. 63% say they feel uncomfortable, and 8% don't know how to feel. Now, you have to keep in mind, it was just last week WestJet announced that passengers on board a flight from Toronto to Halifax may have been exposed to COVID-19. This was just a couple of days after that Air Canada and WestJet both announced that they're allowing people to sit in that middle seat. So certainly not surprising to hear so many Canadians feeling a little bit apprehensive taking to the skies right now.
Not surprising. Interesting for sure. I think I would have been okay if the plane was fairly empty, but now that they are selling that middle seat again, it does make me a little bit nervous. What about you, Mike? Would you get on an airplane right now?
No, you know what, cameraman Nick and I have been talking about this all morning. I'm okay right now, staying grounded. It may change, though, when it comes to the fall and the winter, when it's cold and you kind of get that itch that you want to go somewhere warm. That's when I may miss it, and I may really start considering things. But right now, I think I'm okay.
Well, we are craving the heat here in Vancouver. It has been a cool summer so far. Mike, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, 8:25 now on Breakfast Television. Well, as many people head back to work after months of working from home, a Surrey dog trainer is advising pet owners to plan ahead and avoid separation anxiety from our furry four-legged friends. Ashley Burr has this story.
Okay, wait. Okay, see you later. Goodbye. It takes about 10 to 15 seconds after I walk out the door before I hear that. As many of us have been working from home recently, dogs have gotten maybe a little too used to us always being there, and we are now paying for it.
I think there are a lot of people that are going to be surprised, possibly shocked, how stressed their dogs are because they're just not familiar with the owners not being there.
Oh my God. From utter destruction to cries to come back. Dogs and puppies are clearly social animals, and it appears many people decided these last few months during the pandemic would be the perfect time to add a new furry member to their family.
I'm hearing a lot that people are like, oh, it just seemed like the perfect time. And so in a lot of ways it is the perfect time because people are home and they're able to set puppy up in a routine. The challenge is that we maybe didn't think ahead about things are going to change, and so we need to sort of add that into the routine.
now that I'm back more and more, like I go back more and more, I just find that he does get more and more, separation anxiety, definitely.
He gets sad when I'm leaving because he knows I'm leaving.
We've only left for about 40 minutes at max so far. We only got her in November.
He's been good girl.
Surrey dog trainer Liz Gage says helping your dog adjust to being alone more often will take a little time and training.
We want to build duration. So we don't want to be gone for 20 minutes the first time. Just go out the door, wait 30 seconds, come back in, go back to partying, and then you can build up the duration. So go from 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes. They'll get more and more accustomed to that, and it becomes less of a like, where did you go? Oh my gosh, where's my person?
Gage also advises leaving toys and treats to distract your pup while you are away, and highlights there's a major advantage to training early on.
You'll get way better results if you do this gradually, and puppy just learns that, oh, it's not a big deal. They always come back, especially if you only get the yummy chew when you're going. It's kind of like, oh, good, you're going, rather than, oh no, you're going. I don't know what to do without you.
In New Westminster, Ashley Burr, City News.
Oh, she's so lucky. She has that cute little dog to go home to. Approaching 8:30 now on Breakfast Television. Well, officers aren't saying much about an incident that prompted a large police presence in East Vancouver earlier this morning. We'll have more on this after the break. You're watching Breakfast Television.